Margie, and I'm going to do something with you today that I think is going to be really fun. I'm going to go through my cake decorating box that I've been using for years to show you what you need to cake decorate. And also, I just wanted to show you, I just took this out of my dish drain. You can always tell someone who loves to cake decorate. Can't always tell if they're good, but you can tell if they like to do it because they always have tips, either on their sink, on the windowsill in a custard cup, or they have them in the dish drain because they washed them the last time they made a cake and they left them there, and so they always know where to find their most important tips. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to open up this box and show you what I have, and we'll talk about a few things that you need. So let's just start with the top row. Okay, so these are couplers. Couplers go inside the bag. This is not to show you how to do things, it's just to show you what I have. But this is a coupler, it goes in the bag, and then you put a tip on it. And the nice thing about it is you can switch out the tips. Okay, so this is in the bag. Okay, then this goes outside the bag on the end of the coupler, and then this goes over the tip, and you screw it on, and you can just keep changing out your tips. It's really great for roses if you want to change sizes of your rose on the same cake. These are, of course, toothpicks, and you want to use these for when you're taking color out of a little jar, because you always kind of put it into the icing to get the color off, but then you don't want to put this back into the little jar of icing or a little jar of color because you don't want to get icing into your color. So you throw that away and you just use another one. So they're really great for that. These are little pins that I use to clean out a tip. Okay? If there's something stuck in the end of the tip, it's really great for the rose. Don't have one, here's a bigger one. For the rose, so you can stick it in the larger size and pull if something gets caught in the tip. Okay? I'll mention something about that a little bit later. So I keep those stuck in something so they don't get lost into my icing. All right? These are little brushes that I use to clean out tubes, and they're really important for some tubes, like this tube here that I use for Bavarian cream or buttercream. You really do need to clean these out really well because there's no way you're going to get down into there without some kind of little brush like that. Okay, so that's pretty much what's inside on my top tier. Now the next tier, I keep little larger tips. These are little icing tips. They're not little, these are bigger. The one thing you need to know about this is that you need a larger coupler, unless you're going to just stick it right in the bottom. Usually when you're using a tip like this, you're going to be using a lot of icing. Okay, so you want a larger bag. And when I use a larger bag with these tips, I'm going to put the tip directly into the bag. As you see, this tip is like right inside the bag. And this is a whipped cream. I use this tip a lot because I like to put whipped cream on like a strawberry pie or something like that. Or you can even put icing on top of a cupcake with a tip like this and make a nice little rose. And what size is this? Because this is one of the tips I obviously really love. You can get a bag, I think, this size. I don't know anymore what size it is, but it would probably be like an 18-inch bag. I don't have a ruler. But, this is size 6, star tip. Okay, and I keep it in there because otherwise I might lose it. That's really important for me. Okay, so what else? The other things I have in here, things to know. So these 2 star tips are the same. So if I'm making a large cake, I might use this one, the larger one on the base of the cake, and then I would go to the top edge of the cake, and I would use a little smaller edge. So this is a 4B. Wilton. Now these are Wilton because if you use different companies, they're different numbers, that's all. This is a 6B, a little larger. So think about that. This can also be used as a border. And then I have other round tips here that which I don't see here. But I have smaller ones, and I can show you those as well. But what was I going to say? Sometimes I'll take a tip and I'll push something down into it to open up these little tines. I don't encourage that. I encourage you buying the right tip. The right tool for the job is really what you need. Okay. So as you see in the bottom here, they do have larger couplers. I could really use this in this bag probably. But why? Why? The only time you really want to do this with the coupler is if I want to change the tip on this large bag, then yes, you'd want to put a coupler in there, okay, if I wanted to add a different tip. So that's good. So what else have I got in here? This is a rose nail, which you want to have a scissor. If you're going to take your icing and make a rose, okay, you make a rose on here, and then you can take it off with the scissor, and you can put it directly on your cake. Now, if you don't want to put a rose directly on your cake, say you're using royal icing, you take a little of your icing and you put it down and you place that down on top of the icing, and then you can make your roses, and then you take it off, you put it on a plate. If it's royal icing, it'll just dry, and then you can use them. Or you can actually do that with a good buttercream. You can put the paper down, make your flower, refrigerate them, and then take them out right before you want to use them. And they're going to be cold enough that you're going to be carefully, you can take off that little wax paper and use them on your cake. So you can actually make your roses on a different day that you're decorating the cake. And that's always nice. This is a very large tip, which you definitely need a big bag for. And the funny thing is that I got this at a craft store that did not carry the large bag that I would need to put this in. Okay, so make sure that when you buy a tip that you've got the right coupler or the right bag so you can use it, or you'll get home and be very, very disappointed. I didn't show you this, but this is a nail for flowers that you would put a paper into, and you want to use this nail to make a lily when the little tips, okay, of the lily, the little petals of the lily curve around, and then you would take the paper out and you place that on a plate. So these are combs for cakes, and you would place this perpendicular to the cake after you ice it, and you run this around gently around the cake, and you'll get a design like the comb. And this particular one, it says 1446 Ateco, A-T-E-C-O. Okay. It's called a decorating comb. Has different sized teeth. And this one is Tupperware. I went to a Tupperware party a while ago, and nobody really knew what it was except for me in the room. So I got lucky and I was able to pick this out of the basket when we were picking little presents out, little gifts. These you don't have to have, but these are something that are it's in my box. This is a G for Grant, one of my son, and then I have a daughter Elizabeth, but I don't have a G. And what you do with these kind of things is you'll place them on your cake carefully. Okay, there's a heart. And you'll take a little strainer. And if it's a chocolate cake, you'll use powdered sugar. If it's a white cake, you can use cocoa. So you just put like a tablespoon or even a couple of teaspoons, and just a little, because you're not going to use much. And you don't want, when you hit it, for it to jump out of the strainer. So you just want a little in there. You test it off to the side, not over your cake, and you go like this to see how it's coming out. And then you lay this down on your cake, and then you just sort of sift this over the top. All right? And it can go on around the outside of it because the design will be in the center. Or if you have a doily, you can cover the entire cake. And just put a teeny bit, because you'll be surprised how far a teeny bit will go. All right? This one you'd have around the outside for a chocolate cake would be white, and then you'd have the thanks in there. And the G's the same way, don't worry. You know, you can put a lot down, but you have to do it super slowly, otherwise this won't be as clear. Okay, the heart's really fun. Heart's nice for if you're decorating cupcakes. This is easy, because you can actually just pick it up off cupcakes, all the little cupcakes, just tap it a little bit. Get a lot done quickly. So, okay, now what else can I tell you about? You could have offset spatulas. So it's offset, meaning the handle is going to be a little bit higher than the actual part you're icing with. That keeps your hand out of the way. All right, now you can tell this one has a round. This one has a round edge. Okay, I have another one here that has a flat edge. The flat edge is nice because you can put that directly on the base of your Lazy Susan when you turn the Lazy Susan. The bottom of this spatula will sit right on the base of the plate, which will take the icing off, give you a nice fine edge. Not that important because you're going to if you put a border on, not that important anyway, really. Okay, so I have bunches of spoons here for stirring icing, all right? And I can also show you my tips. This is my little tray of tips. I'll just quickly talk about that. These are my leaf tips. The most popular one really is a 68, but you can actually make a leaf tip using a bag. And I have a video for how to make a bag, but this leaf tip works great. Just make sure that the tip of the tip is open, okay? And test it. Test it off to the side to make sure it's making a nice leaf, okay? The stars, again, I like the open ones the most. Like this one, I would choose these two together. That'd be the bottom, this would be the top edge. The small stars are good for if you're making an animal with millions of little stars to cover the entire cake. That's great. Let's see. These are writing tips. A great writing tip for an average cake would be, say, a 3. Okay, but you want to just look at the area that you have to ice, or to write in, no matter how big your cake is. You want to make sure you have the area on a full sheet might be very small because you did a lot of decorating with flowers. So look at that. The rose tip, something you want to know. I mean, this one here, the 104, is the average size tip. The average size tip is what they use in bakeries to do their flowers. The smaller little rose tip might be really nice for little tiny rose buds or something. Also, make sure the tip, the very narrow part of the rose tip, when you buy it, is open. Sometimes they'll sell a tip where that's a little bit pinched, and that will destroy the outcome of your rose. All right, so make sure that's open. So this one here is for a basket weave. All right, so it has the teeth on both sides or on one side. When you're doing the basket, you would use the side up that has the teeth. All right, so thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back soon. Have fun decorating. If you have any questions about this, please write them down below. And subscribe if you like this video. All right, bye.